eating exactly $99.2 million in pure dead cap space, while simultaneously dropping $67.5 million on a quarterback who was literally running a scout team less than 2 years ago. That's not just a rebuild, that's a financial bloodbath. This front office is burning the old regime's playbook to the ground, taking on the biggest dead money hit in NFL history, and betting their absolute jobs on a massive dual-threat gamble. If this $67 million roll of the dice fails, we aren't just looking at a bad season. We're staring down a 5-year dark age with zero way out. We've got to talk about the bloodletting first. We're breaking down the brutal trade that just sent Minkah Fitzpatrick to a hated rival to scrape together $10 million in breathing room, and the historic release that officially ripped Tua Tagovailoa out of our quarterback room. But stick around until the end, because I'm pulling apart the tape on this new $67.5 million trigger man, the guy who posted 6 passing touchdowns and 0 picks in his last 3 starts, and showing you why this coaching staff thinks he's the only one who can pull us out of cap hell. It's getting ugly down here, but we're tracking every single dollar. Dustin Davis here. If you want the raw truth about our Dolphins without the corporate spin, just hit that like button right now. It keeps this channel alive. Let's get into the wreckage. Earlier today, Miami officially traded safety Minkah Fitzpatrick to the New York Jets. We literally just traded for the guy last year, and now we dump him? All we got back in return to 7th-round draft pick in 2026. And to pour salt in the wound, as part of that deal, New York instantly signed Fitzpatrick to a massive new 3-year contract worth $40 million. For the Dolphins fanbase, this move's a bitter pill to swallow on multiple levels. Losing a high-quality player hurts, but watching him pack his bags to go play for a division rival, that's things on a whole different level. But the hard truth that Sullivan and Hafley had their hands tied. Getting this team's cap obligations out of the red was a non-negotiable priority going into the new league year, and Fitzpatrick's massive contract was a glaring red line on the ledger. So what did moving Fitzpatrick actually do for our bank account? According to Barry Jackson over at the Miami Herald, Miami's hook for Fitzpatrick plummets from $18.8 million down to $12.9 million, assuming the Dolphins don't eat a single dime of his salary in the trade. With this deal locked in, the front office is now projected to have just over $10 million in available cap space. $10 million isn't exactly earth-shattering when you look around the league, but it gives Sullivan the bare minimum working room he needs to start building this roster his way. The squad he inherited, built by Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel, was flat out failing to produce the results they were getting paid for. A massive chunk of that old money structure had to be torn down before this new staff could actually do their jobs. The cap situation we had waking up this morning was a ticking bomb, and trading Fitzpatrick stopped it from blowing up. But that survival came at a heavy price. We just handed over a former first-round pick who was one of the only guys we could actually count on every Sunday. And if you thought the defensive teardown was wild, just wait, because shifting over to the offense, the Dolphins dropped an even bigger nuke that exact same morning when they pulled the plug at the most important position in sports. Less than 2 full years, that's all it took. Not even 2 years after handing out a franchise record $212.4 million extension, the Miami Dolphins officially pulled the plug on Tua Tagovailoa. GM Jon-Eric Sullivan dropped the hammer on Monday, making it clear we're moving in a different direction. $212.4 million, man. You don't hand out that kind of cash unless you're dead certain. To rip that contract up this fast shows you just how bad the vibe got inside that building. Sullivan didn't sugarcoat the timeline. He stated he informed Tua's camp they're releasing him following the start of the new league year. He gave the expected PR sign-off, thanking Tua for his 6 seasons in the community, but the message was sent. The era is over. Tua fired back on Instagram with a career highlight reel. He owned the failure, writing, "I carry deep regret that I couldn't get the job done and bring a championship home to this city. Miami deserves that." Reading that stings. You can tell he really wants it, but he knows the winning window slammed shut. He couldn't push us over the edge when the lights were the brightest. Think back to 2023. Tua earns the first Pro Bowl nod and led the NFL with 4,624 passing yards. That was the absolute peak. But keeping that fire burning was impossible. Concussions and injuries meant he missed at least 1 game in 5 of his 6 seasons here. Availability is the best ability, and we just didn't have it when it mattered. You can't rely on a guy who's always one bad hit away from missing a month. This last year was the final straw. Head coach Mike McDaniel actually benched him for the final 3 games for rookie Quinn Ewers. Tua limped to a 6-8 record in his starts, tossing a career-high 15 interceptions. Now, let's talk about the money, the absolute nightmare part. By using a post-June 1st designation, the Dolphins are eating exactly $99.2 million in dead cap money. That's a brand new NFL record, shattering Russell Wilson's mark. We're eating a sickening $67.4 million in 2026 and another $31.8 million in 2027 just to get him off the roster. $99.2 million in dead cap. We're paying a guy an NFL record amount of cash to explicitly not play for us. It's a financial disaster. Tua leaves Miami with 18,166 yards, 120 touchdowns, and a 44-32 record. We didn't pay $212 million for slightly above average. We paid for rings. But Miami didn't sit around feeling sorry for themselves. A replacement was already in the works. Miami locked down an agreement with quarterback Malik Willis. We're talking a 3-year contract or $67.5 million, with a jaw-dropping $45 million fully guaranteed. That kind of guaranteed cash sets him up as the undisputed projected starter for at least the 2026 season. This is the first massive swing of the Sullivan era at the quarterback spot, and it brings a level of inside knowledge that you just don't get with normal free agent signings. You don't hand a guy $45 million guaranteed unless you're absolutely sure about the vibe he brings to the locker room. That's starting quarterback money. The plan's clear. They want their guy, and they want him right now. Check the history here. GM Jon-Eric Sullivan, head coach Jeff Hafley, and Malik Willis just spent the last 2 seasons grinding together with the Green Bay Packers. That built-in relationship completely deletes the guessing game you usually play when you throw top dollar at a quarterback who hasn't even started a full season yet. The second Tua's release hit the wire, finding a quarterback went from a maybe later problem to a 4-alarm fire. Let's be real, Miami isn't built for a Super Bowl run in 2026, but the front office looked at Willis and saw a guy who gives them a real fighting chance to stay in the game on any given Sunday. We're not lifting the Lombardi this year, and anyone telling you otherwise is lying. But you can't just roll over and die. You need a guy who won't just be eating turf every single drive. That shared history up in Green Bay drove this entire decision. Sullivan and Hafley watched him put in the work every single day. They saw his prep, they tracked his growth, and they measured his raw instincts up close. They knew exactly what his ceiling was way before free agency even opened. That $67.5 million contract proves how much confidence they have from watching him behind closed doors. This isn't some blind draft throw. When you watch a guy sweat it out on the practice squad, you figure out real quick if he's got that dog in him. They're betting their jobs on what they saw in Wisconsin. Sullivan told everyone from day one he was bringing heavy competition to the quarterback room. Getting this deal done on the absolute first day of the league's negotiating window sends a massive message. The Dolphins zeroed in on a quarterback who can actually punish a defense 2 different ways. He can beat you through the air, and he can break your back on the ground. That dual threat element, something this Miami offense flat out hasn't had in years. Having a statue in the pocket's a death sentence in today's NFL. We finally have a guy who can extend the play when the offensive line inevitably collapses. Forget about those 3 rough starts he had with the Tennessee Titans back in 2022. That was just a developmental baseline. The real breakout happened over the last 2 years in Green Bay. In his 3 total starts for the Packers across 2024 and 2025, he flat out lit it up. He threw for 972 total yards, tossed 6 passing touchdowns, and didn't throw a single interception. He even posted a ridiculous 145.5 passer rating in 2025. Add in over 260 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Now he's getting a full offseason taking the first team reps for the first time ever. His ceiling carries real credibility. Coach Hafley didn't hold back when talking about what he saw from Willis up in Green Bay. He spelled it out clearly. Well, obviously, he was our scout team quarterback, so a lot of times he really couldn't do what he does best because I was sitting there telling him if we were playing a drop back guy and he started scrambling, I'd tell him, hey, you got to stay in the pocket, man. Like, stop scrambling. That's not what we're doing today. And then if we were playing a scrambler, he could kind of play his game and do his thing. Obviously, him and I have a really good relationship, and he always did a really good job and gave us everything that he had. Paying Willis doesn't magically fix everything, but it finally gives the plan a real backbone. Willis is guaranteed to take the first team reps when spring ball kicks off, but don't count Quinn Ewers out just yet. That starting job's gotta be earned in the dirt. But paying Willis takes a massive premium draft pick at quarterback completely off the table. We heard all the noise about Miami eyeing Alabama's Ty Simpson. You can kiss that dream goodbye. It's not happening. Now you're looking at guys in the later rounds. Names like Taylon Green, Drew Aller, and Carson Beck are the real targets now. They're project guys. They've got upside, but they don't burn up our most valuable draft capital. The truth is, handing $45 million guaranteed to a guy with only 3 starts in Green Bay is the ultimate roll of the dice. That's the shocking reality of this $67.5 million trigger man. Sullivan and Hafley are betting their entire careers that those 6 touchdowns and 0 picks were the birth of a franchise quarterback, not just a backup getting lucky. They're throwing darts until they hit the bullseye to drag us out of cap hell. That's the brutal reality of an NFL rebuild. And if you want to keep getting the honest, unfiltered breakdown of how this team's actually being built, hit that like and subscribe button right now so you never miss an update.